We'll continue on with Ji's commentary, talking about the hindrances to developing serenity, which are also hindrances to Dharma practice in general and to having a happy life. So we've talked about sensual attachment already, and then also malice, having ill will towards others, and how letting our mind get stuck in either of those two emotions paralyzes us and prevents us from doing genuine spiritual practice and prevents us from being happy in general. So then the third one is lethargy and sleepiness. So you might have noticed that sometimes in your meditation, your mind is very revved up with attachment or with malice. And then, like that, you get drowsy and you can barely stay awake. Yeah? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed also that you can have gotten a good night's sleep the night before? You're fine. You sit down to meditate. It's like, why is this happening? I'm fine. I slept enough. Why am I falling asleep? So this is a kind of karmic obscuration, perhaps from disrespecting Dharma items or disrespecting the Dharma in general, poo-pooing the Dharma, saying it's not important, something like that. Or it could be something like maybe telling other people, why are you going to a retreat? Go get a life. In other words, you were on the opposite side of it, of this conversation, and discouraging people from practice. So all of that creates the karma to have difficulty meeting the Dharma, or once you've met the Dharma, having difficulty understanding it. And so, falling asleep is, or lethargy, which is having a very dull, heavy mind, are both obscurations that prevent that. Okay, so we might think that there are conditions where maybe we didn't sleep enough, we were jet lagged or whatever. That's one thing. But I'm talking about where you've slept enough and you're still falling asleep. And it comes on like this, and it happens in teachings, usually when you're sitting in the front row where everybody can see you falling asleep. Okay? So, it doesn't, the solution is not to sleep more, because that's not really the problem. Okay? So it's good in those cases to do some purification, especially doing prostrations like you've been doing in the morning, the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, because that one purifies, counteracts destructive karma. But also, you're prostrating, so your body's moving and your blood's flowing, and it's different than physically. It's invigorating. Okay. Another antidote is go out and look a long distance. When we were looking for land for the Abbey, one thing I was very sure on is we had to be able to have a view. Yeah, because sometimes when you're meditating, we get too turned in on ourselves. We need to be able to look far, and in the evening, look at the sky and think of how many sentient beings are out there and how big the universe is, and stretch your mind to encompass the experience of all these different living beings out there. Who knows what in the world all of them are experiencing. Countless number of beings. And that really helps stretch the mind. And it takes the emphasis off of me and what's bothering me. Okay? And, you just look at the little dots, the stars, and actually they're enormous things. And it takes you how many, eons of light years or how many millions of light years to get out there. So imagine just how far that away that is and how many living beings there are between here and there. Yeah. So don't think human beings on Mars. That's really kind of small. Yeah. And there's all different kinds of life. They don't all need water to live. That just happens to be the configuration for our kind of bodies. But I'm sure there's other kind of bodies that don't need water to live, that, they live in worlds where there's other kind of elements and other things happening, and their bodies are suitable for that. Yeah. So just something to expand the mind, really very, very helpful. Yeah. Or before you sit down to meditate, put water on your head, or take a washcloth and put it on top of your head. It's cold, it's refreshing. That can be helpful. Okay, so in this third one, there's actually two parts. One is lethargy, and the other one is sleepiness. And Vasubandhu says that these two are put together because they are fed by the same kinds of causes. For example, unhappiness. When you've been really unhappy, you tend to sleep a lot. Physical exhaustion, of course, we would sleep a lot. Imbalances in food consumption. Maybe we eat too much rich food, so we fall asleep. Or we eat a lot in the evening before we go to bed, and we wake up drowsy. Okay? Depression, having a mind that's depressed, can also cause you to fall asleep. Yeah? So all these things are, lead to this mental torpor, mental sluggishness, where your mind is just heavy and unclear. Yeah. So he says that in some ways, lethargy and sleepiness are worse than other hindrances, because sometimes the other hindrances can be dispelled just by recognizing them. Yeah? Sometimes you recognize, oh, I'm clinging on to something, and then that recognition helps you drop it. Okay? But the thing is, with lethargy and sleepiness, it's hard to recognize it because your mind is lethargic and sleepy. Okay? You're kind of clouded over, unaware, so it's hard to really recognize it, and recognizing it often doesn't do the trick for us. Okay, so one of the antidotes to lethargy is to remember death and impermanence. Okay, so I'm going to read some more from Nagarjuna's commentary on wisdom. I'm sure some people won't like to hear it, but let me preface it by saying that in Buddhism, we talk about death. Death is not a taboo subject. We talk about it in polite company. Yeah, we talk about it open and freely because it's a reality. And pretending that it doesn't exist doesn't make it not happen. Yeah, I don't know about you, but in my family, we weren't supposed to talk about it. Yeah. But I think it's very healthy to talk about it, because the thing about death is, when we contemplate death, it makes us ask ourselves, what is important in my life? Considering that I'm not going to live forever, what is really important? So if you're worried about something today, or irritated at somebody, or whatever, when we think about the fact that we're not going to live forever, does that worry, does that problem, does that spat you had with somebody, is it really important? Yeah, it puts it in perspective. And usually we come up with, no, it's not at all important. Then what is important? You know, what's important, so that at the time I die, I can just let go. Without, oh, I'm going to leave this one, I'm going to leave that one. I'm in the middle of this project, I can't die yet. I've got to finish this project. All these people are expecting this from me, I can't die. That doesn't matter. When it comes to dying, death is going to win. As much as we say, look, I'm really busy today, these people, I have some deadlines to meet, there's things I want to do, can we wait a while? Death does not listen to any of that. Yeah. So knowing that, then it makes us really reflect, well, what is important? Yeah. And certainly the irritations, the spats, the frustrations, a lot of that stuff is really not important. Even some of the things that during our life we thought were very important, all the people who were mean to us, yeah, all those grudges we hold for the people who were mean to us, who didn't understand us, who called us names, is that really important when we die? Do you want to die thinking about those people? I don't. Is it really important that they called us names and whatever? That's all done, over with. This life is like a dream. It's over. Nothing to hang on to there. Better to go forward with a mind of compassion, a mind of goodwill. Yeah? An optimistic mind that wants to be of benefit and service. Much better to go forward, to our next life like that. So if we want to go forward to our next life with that kind of optimistic, compassionate mind, then how about going forward into the next moment of this life with that same mind? Why hold on to all the rubbish until 10 minutes before we die, and then think at that time we're going to have the mental clarity to finally drop it and develop a compassionate heart? Who are we kidding? So if, who wants to carry this stuff forward into the next moment? It's really just useless. So remembering death from a Buddhist context, in a Buddhist context, really helps us steer our mind in a good direction and live in a very vital way and do what is important and not do what isn't important. Yeah. So it's a meditation that we do in the beginning of our practice, in the middle of our practice, at the end of our practice, because it's really, I find the meditation actually rather healing, to tell you the truth. Because all the emotional stuff I was hanging on to before, No sense hanging on anymore. Yeah. So very healing in that way. Okay, so here's what Nagarjuna says for when, we're just like lethargic and sleepy and you know that one? So here's what Nagarjuna says. You get up. This is like my cat in the morning when the alarm goes off. You get up. It's time to feed me. Okay, you know that? Do you have pets that wake you in the morning? Say, don't lie there hugging that stinking corpse. Yeah? We think our body's so beautiful. It's kind of a stinking corpse, isn't it? You know, just a preview of what it's going to become. That don't lie there hugging that stinking corpse that is all sorts of impurities falsely designated as a person. He does not pull any punches. It's as if you've gotten a serious disease or been shot by an arrow. With such an accumulation of suffering and pain, how can you sleep? In other words, you're in the middle of samsara, under the control of afflictions and karma, and you're sleeping. This is the time you have to practice, to cease the cycle. But instead, you're sleeping. The entire world is burned up by the fire of death. You should be seeking means to escape. How then can you sleep? You're like a person in shackles being led to his execution with disastrous harm so imminent. How can you sleep? Like death is coming, and death is not something that people look forward to. Yeah? People want to avoid it. It's not, the fun thing you want to do on Saturday afternoon to relax. Okay? So, to look at what, being born and dying in samsara really means and use this time to stop that cycle. With insurgent fetters not yet destroyed and their harm has not yet averted, it's as if you were sleeping in a room with a venomous snake, and as if you had met up with the soldier's gleaming blades. At such a time, how could it be that you can still sleep? Okay. Sleep is a vast darkness in which nothing is visible. Every day it deceives and steals away your clarity. When sleep blankets the mind, you are not aware of anything. With such great faults as these, how can you sleep? Okay, so let's put this in perspective. Nagarjuna is not saying you should be an insomniac. Okay, that's not the purpose. He's saying, your body, mind, complex needs to rest a certain amount of time. Yeah, but not more. So don't sleep more than you need to. Yeah, and really ask yourself, how much sleep do I really need? Because lots of times we overestimate the amount of sleep we really need, and we would do just fine without that much. But it's really very comforting when you read all the articles in psychology that says you really need 8 hours and some people need 9 hours, and then you point to it. See, they say you need 8 hours, otherwise your brain cells disintegrate, and some people need 9 hours. I'm one of those. In fact, I need 9.5. Maybe we don't. Yeah, maybe we don't. Maybe our body, mind would be fine with less. Maybe we can wean ourselves gradually from oversleeping, which often causes waking up groggy, doesn't it? Yeah. So, each of us has to check in, how much sleep we need. Get that amount, but don't oversleep. Yeah. Okay, another antidote that is very helpful is if you're getting drowsy, then to visualize light coming in. So if you're doing the breathing meditation, inhale light, exhale darkness, and see your body mind being filled with light. If you're doing the meditation on the Buddha, really make the Buddha very bright. Yeah, when you're visualizing, lots of light there. There's a few other tricks. In Chinese monasteries, they have wake-up devices. Okay, so there's a piece of wood that's attached to your ear with a string. Okay, and if you nod off, the thing falls off and it pulls your ear. Okay, so I guess you wake up. Lama Yeshe used to have the monks put a water bowl on top of their head when they meditated. And if you fall asleep, it's filled with water too. Then it crashes down and you get splattered. And it makes noise, so all your friends start giggling. It's quite embarrassing. Yeah, but it works. Yeah, nothing wrong with a little embarrassment now and then to wake us up. Yeah. Some of you are looking at me like, oh no, are we going to start that at the Abbey? Maybe. Okay, then the fourth one is restlessness and remorse. Here, the term restlessness is often translated as agitation or excitement. Okay, so the mind is restless. It's on the verge of going to an object of attachment. It's seeking something to grab onto, seeking some distraction. Okay, do you know that mind? Yeah? Okay. So it comes up when you're sitting. Sometimes the body is incredibly restless. It's like we cannot sit still. Like we have ants in our pants or something. We cannot sit still. It takes a while as you meditate for the winds in your body to calm down. Yeah? So you just have to live through it sometimes and let the body gradually over time, weeks, months, whatever it takes, so that the body learns to calm down when you can sit. Yeah, I remember one of my first long retreats. Oh, I had so much pain in one leg, I had to stretch the leg. It seemed like, every few minutes. It wasn't really that my leg was hurting, it was that my body was restless. Yeah, it came out as my leg hurting, but it wasn't really the leg. It was the energy in the body. And it took some time for it to settle down, Sometimes it's not our body, it's our mind. Yeah, the mind is restless. Give me something interesting to think about, something exciting. Even something that's not exciting, that's not interesting, but it's different than what I'm thinking about now. So let's look at Facebook. Let's check my text messages. You know how it is? Yeah, when you just, your phone's been turned off or something like that, your computer's been turned off, and then you finally go back and you're with your device, gotta check, what messages have come in. Yeah, and there's something tantalizing, like there's gonna be some new message for me. Yeah. Are any of your messages especially interesting? Yeah? most of the messages we receive every day are not really interesting, but they're new. And so we think maybe they'll be more interesting than what we're doing. Yeah, something new. But then all it is somebody else complaining to you. Yeah. You check your email. Please, can you do this? Yeah, right. Let's go back to meditate. I don't want to do that. Then a few minutes later, oh, I better check again. Maybe somebody else sent me. Oh, a text message. Yeah, my daughter, my son, my mother, my father, they sneezed. They think they have pneumonia. Oh, good. Now I can worry about something. That gives me something to do. Let's worry. Yeah, worry is very enticing, isn't it? It really gives us meaning because we're compassionate. We care about that person. Of course, we can't do anything, and the worry doesn't do anything except drive us nuts and drive them nuts. But anyway, we care about them, so we're going to worry. Worry. Yeah? Anybody have that problem? Yeah? Doesn't do any good, does it? Yeah? We can't do anything. The other person usually can take care of themselves anyway. And anyway, nothing has happened yet. But it's so much fun to be miserable worrying about what could happen. Yeah? I'm the daughter of a mother who worried. Please do not do that to your children. Please. Yeah. It is miserable to be the child of a parent that worries. Worry is so much different than love. Really. But we confuse them. And we think if we don't worry, it means we don't love them. That's not true at all. Love and worry are very different. Yeah, you love somebody, you wish them well, you trust them, you send them happiness. Worry is focused on yourself. I'm so worried. What's going to happen to them? If something happens to them, then will I get blamed? Then I won't have them around. What will I do if I don't have them around? Then, oh dear, this will happen. Then I'll have to be disturbed with what I'm doing, and I'll get in trouble, and people will think I'm an awful parent. People will think I'm an awful child. This is really bad. I don't know what I'm going to do. So many things are all happening at once, and I can't stand it, and I'll go to sleep. But you can't fall asleep because you're worried. And you got to check your phone again because maybe something else happened to them. Oh my goodness. Makes me exhausted just talking to you like this. Really, it's exhausting. Worry is exhausting. Okay, so, yeah, agitation and regret. Yeah, you can see, how are you going to meditate if you're worrying all the time? Very difficult. I'm worried if somebody's going to blame me about something. I'm worried about if I'm going to do something wrong. I'm worried, we are so creative. Okay, so Vasubandhu here, because this fourth one, yeah, agitation and remorse, so it's actually two different things, but they're put together as one, like the previous one of lethargy and sleepiness. So Vasubandhu here says that these two are grouped together because they're nourished by the same factors. Thinking about relatives, land, immortals, now why that? And previous pleasurable experiences and loving companions. Okay? They result from the same mental agitation. Okay? So it's true. Thinking about relatives, thinking about your property, thinking about how you're going to pay next month's rent, Yeah, just worrying about spinning, like your dryer. Okay, so restlessness is of three types. Physical restlessness, so we jump from one activity to the next, we can't sit still. Verbal restlessness, so we get caught up in singing, dance, singing, chatting, arguing over trivial topics like the cats, discussing worldly affairs, verbal restlessness, just spending a lot of time, blah, blah. And mental restlessness filled with distraction and all sorts of worry, discursive thoughts, and so on. So restlessness or agitation is likened to an unrestrained drunken elephant and a camel without a nose ring. Okay? Both are nearly impossible to control. What would be a modern example for those of us who aren't familiar with camels and wild elephants? What is impossible to control? Your car when it doesn't have brakes or when the steering goes out. Yeah? So it's going all over the place, isn't it? Yeah? So rather than indulge our restlessness and just let it go unabated, we need to recognize it and then deliberately calm our body, speech, and mind. Yeah. So it takes some consciousness sometimes, like children, sit here. No, you can't get up. Sit. Yes, like you said to your dog when you were a little girl. Sit, Stormy. Sit, children. Sit. Yeah. And you make yourself stay seated. That we're not talking about for hours on end. We're talking about, we sit down and then 10 minutes later, it's like we got to run do something. I had a friend and she told me that the way she dealt with her mind that either wanted to get up from meditation or didn't want to go to the cushion, she would talk to it like she would talk to a little child. I know, mind, that you don't want to go there and do this, but we're going to do this. Come on. Like a parent coaxing their kid. Yeah, it doesn't do. You don't scream and shout, you idiot, sit on your cushion. That's not going to do much good. Yeah, you coax it like your mind's a little baby. Sit down. You'll feel better if you meditate for a while. And we're not asking hours. Let's just do a short meditation session. Yeah, do a short. You can do it. Huh? Sometimes really our mind is like an infant. Okay, then remorse is of two types. So we regret not doing something that we should have done, or we regret doing something we should not have done. Okay, did you get that? So, again, a lot of wasted time. One thing I think that can be helpful for this is to really think, again, what are my values? What are my principles? What is worth doing? If something's worth doing, I'm going to do it. If something's not worth doing, I'm not going to do it. And have that clear in our mind. If we do, then we have much less to have remorse and regret about later on. Yeah. But when we let our mind be uncontrolled, then we do, and this is the thing about intoxicants, then we do all sorts of things that later, when we've kind of come to our senses and recognize what we've done, we go, uh-oh, I made a big boo-boo. Okay? Yeah, because when you're loaded, I mean, how do you talk to other people? We say all sorts of things we would never say when we're sober. And then you have to fix it up after that because you said and did all these stupid things. Yeah. So, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. So this is one big reason, to abandon drinking and drugging. And also, I think it's important to be able to notice when our mind is under the influence of a very powerful, afflictive emotion, to know right now, to say, my mind is overwhelmed by an affliction right now. I am not going to make any decisions. I am not going to say or do much right now because my mind is like just feeling really greedy and attached or really jealous or really upset and angry. So I can identify that so I know I'm not going to talk a lot now because I'm going to say something I regret later. This is not the time to do email. Yeah, because I'm going to send an email that is, going to cause some disturbance. Okay? And so, just to be able to identify when our mind is under the influence of an affliction and to say to ourselves, okay, chill out, what do we say that children need to do? I need a timeout. Yeah. And then I'll come back and deal with the situation later. But I know my mind is not thinking clearly right now. Yeah. Because it's so difficult when we aren't thinking clearly, either because our mind is overwhelmed by an emotion or when we're intoxicated. Then, like I said, we say and do all sorts of things, that actually break trust with the people that we care the most about. And then, afterwards, we have to somehow fix it up. And it's much harder to fix up broken trust than it is to refrain from saying or doing something that breaks trust. Yeah, so to just be aware of that. Yeah. So doing something we shouldn't have done or not doing something we should have done. Yeah. So really be careful. Many years ago, at a retreat at Cloud Mountain, some of you may have been there, one woman came to the retreat and she was having a really hard time concentrating because her mind was really filled with a lot of remorse because her mother had been ill, quite ill, like, on the verge of dying, and to the extent that she needed to go there and be with her mother before her mother passed away. But she didn't feel like going, so she didn't go. Then she, had a lot of regret for not being there. So these kinds of things, to just, when we have decisions like that, it might be something that we don't really want to do, but to ask ourselves, if I don't do this, will I regret not doing it later? Yeah. So I'm not saying that we have to drop everything and rush off whenever somebody is in the hospital, but to just, look at situations clearly, and I don't feel like it is not a good reason. Yeah. Kind of understanding, well, I don't trust myself to say the right thing. Yeah. Then maybe better not to go if you think that you can't really handle a situation. Okay, so each situation we have to look at individually and check up what's going to be a benefit in the long term. Okay, So with the first type of remorse, okay, this is the one of not doing things we should have done. We initially waste a great deal of time and lose a lot of energy in our restlessness and agitation. Then, when we realize how much time we've wasted, we feel great remorse and wonder if we'll ever be able to practice properly. Okay? So rather than, bringing ourselves to do some practice, we just let the mind go all over the place, then we feel remorseful for that later. And that remorse becomes a distraction. Okay? With the second kind of remorse, we've committed a serious non-virtue, and we feel overwhelmed with regret. Okay? So sometimes rather than regret, we feel guilt. Yeah, guilt is totally useless. Yeah, guilt does not purify our negative karma. It does not do the harm, undo the harm. Yeah. If we regret something, we can make amends, we can purify, we can go on. But when we sit there and beat ourselves up, what you were talking about this morning, criticizing ourselves, I should have done this, why did I do that, or I'm so bad, na 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 na. This kind of guilt mind and self-denigration, that actually, from a Buddhist viewpoint, is an afflictive mental state that we need to put down. Sometimes we get the feeling that the guiltier we feel, the more we're atoning for what we did. That's not true. Feeling guilty does not make amends for what we did. It just keeps us ruminating about ourselves. Okay? Having regret, then we can make amends. Because with regret, we don't feel guilty. We don't trash ourselves. We just realize I've made a mistake. Let's fix it up as best as I can and go on. Okay? So here's some more words from Nagarjuna. If a person is able to feel regret for an offense, having regretted it, you should then put it down and let it go. Okay? You should copy these lines out and put this on your bathroom mirror. Let me read it again. If a person is able to feel regret for an offense, having regretted it, you should then put it down and let it go. In this way, the mind abides peaceful and happy. You should not constantly remain attached to it in your thoughts. Okay? So not ruminate about it in your thoughts. If you possess the two kinds of remorse for having not done what you should have done, or having done what you should not have done, because this remorse attaches to the mind, this then is the mark of a foolish person. It is not the case that on account of feeling guilty, you will somehow be able to do what you failed to do. This one goes below the previous one on your bathroom mirror. It is not the case that on account of feeling guilty, you will somehow be able to do what you failed to do. Guilt does not remedy the situation. All of the ill deeds that you have already committed cannot be caused to become undone, but you can purify them. Okay? So you can see how restlessness and remorse are, hindrances to developing concentration, because they completely take our mind in another realm altogether. Okay, then the fifth one is deluded doubt. Okay, or afflictive doubt. So there's different kinds of doubt. There's doubt inclined to the wrong conclusion. That's this one. Doubt that is even balanced, that's not good, but it's better than the one inclined to the wrong conclusion. Then there's doubt that's inclined to the right conclusion. That one's, you're starting to get somewhere. Still not good, but you're progressing, okay? So especially this kind of doubt, yeah? So it inhibits having faith and confidence in our practice, having faith and confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, okay? Having faith and confidence in our spiritual mentor. So if we don't trust the path, the practice, the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, the instructions we're receiving, or our spiritual mentor, then it's going to be difficult to practice the instructions, isn't it? Because you're sitting there going, does this work? Does this not work? Did the person who explained it to me know what they're talking about? I don't know. How do I know the Buddha's really a Buddha? How do I know the Dharma works? How do I know these people, realized emptiness? How do I know this instruction's going to go is correct? So, it's quite normal to have questions. Yeah, questions are great. In fact, we should ask questions, because when we ask questions, it will clear up our confusion. But here we're talking about the kind of doubt that isn't just a question or a kind of curiosity, but it's like a nagging doubt. It's the kind of doubt that takes you down, that is kind of a prove it to me kind of doubt. Yeah. So that really impedes us from going forward. Because maybe you sit down, to do the practice, and then you say, well, should I meditate on the breath? Should I meditate on the image of the Buddha? Well, some of my teachers said I should meditate on the breath. But those teachers also said that visualization just distracts your mind and creates fantasies. So maybe I shouldn't meditate on the Buddha, I should meditate on the breath. But the teacher who was talking about meditating on the Buddha and visualization, they had a good argument for what they were saying. And they also said that meditating on the breath was okay too. So it's not like those people really didn't know anything. They must have a reason for saying what they did. But I don't know. Why did this other teacher say this? And there's so many kinds of breathing meditation. There's the kind that tells you to do long, deep breaths at the beginning. There's the kind that tells you just let your breath be natural and not change it. There's the breathing meditation where they say try to slow your breath down so that your mind is more subtle and you can concentrate better. Which one do I do? This teacher taught me that, but I'm not sure if that teacher knew what they were talking about, but this teacher taught me the other one, but I don't feel so good when I do that. So I don't know. And then actually there's more than just these two types of breathing meditation. I was reading in a book. I saw it in a library, the library up here. And it was talking about another kind of breathing meditation. And then I found another book that said, no, you should do Vipassana. You shouldn't just do breathing meditation with serenity. But then there was another book that said, you can do breathing meditation with Vipassana at the same time. Maybe I should do that one. Okay, you getting what I mean? Impossible to meditate then. Yeah. And then, you get into thinking, well, which teacher taught me which one? But, this teacher taught me this, but, I really don't like that teacher very much. They don't pay very much attention to me. I want them to pay more attention to me. I like that teacher because they smile at me a lot. But they, how do I know that's really a good reason to trust that teacher just because they smile? But it's certainly better than this teacher who doesn't listen to what I have to say and who ignores me. But so which teacher should I follow? This one or this one? But actually, there's some other teachers. There's another Dharma center that I heard about, and I should go there and try out the teachers there because my friend told me that they're really good. They have a great sense of humor. that teacher really makes you laugh. I should go to that center. But, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's not the quality to look for in a spiritual mentor, is having a good sense of humor. Okay? Do you see how we drive ourselves crazy? Yeah? We drive ourselves totally crazy. Okay. So, Xi talks about 3 kinds of doubt. Okay, we're narrowing it down here. Okay. So the first is doubt in ourselves that prevents us from trying. Okay. I'm not capable of this. My faculties are too dull. My defilements are too strong. I have so much I've created so much destructive karma, and all those seeds of destructive karma are obscuring my mind. And, I just don't know. I'm incapable of doing this practice. It's just really, impossible for me to do. I need to do something else. I can't do this. Okay? So sometimes we discourage ourselves, doubting ourselves. Yeah. It's all rubbish thinking. All rubbish thinking. Just making up stories about ourselves. Yeah, it's so self-centered, isn't it? I'm so important. I'm the most incompetent person in the world. Everybody else can meditate, but I can't. Okay? So that's the first kind of doubt. We need at that time to really remember how precious our precious human life is, how rare it is to have that, and how we must have created a whole lot of great karma in the past to have the opportunity that we have now. Yeah, and encourage us. We aren't hopeless and helpless. Yeah, if you read some of the sutras from the Buddha's time, we're much better off than some of the people who the Buddha taught. Okay, like Angulimala. Angulimala killed 999 people. Yeah, we haven't done that. Let's not disparage ourselves so much and think we're incompetent. Because Angulimala, once he had faith in the Buddha and started practicing the path, he became an arhat. Yeah, so if he can do it, we can do it. Okay? The second kind of doubt is in our spiritual mentor. Okay? So my spiritual mentor is nothing special. They must not have any realizations on the path. They act like just normal people. What am I going to gain by following them? They don't really know much anyway. Yeah, they grew up watching Mickey Mouse like me. Or, they grew up in some other country that's very unsophisticated, not like me, in my country that's very sophisticated. How can I really trust that person? Do they know what they're talking about? Yeah. Anyway, they ignore me. They don't pay attention to me. They don't, isn't it their job to console me when I feel sad and to meet all my emotional needs? And, I'm just an ordinary sentient being. If they were a Buddha, they would work for my benefit and meet all my emotional needs. Good luck. Okay, so that kind of doubt in our spiritual mentor. And there's a lot of arrogance in there. We need not realize it, but there's a lot of arrogance, putting down that person or putting down the Buddha. We know better. Okay? So Nagarjuna recommends, okay, so he says, here, we consider ourselves wise enough to evaluate our spiritual mentor's practice. while meanwhile not recognizing that our own mind is blinded by arrogance. To be free of this hindrance, Nagarjuna recommends we regard it as gold kept in a smelly pouch. If we want the gold, we have to take the pouch too. So in the same way, he says that while our spiritual mentor may not be stainless, we should regard him or her as we would the Buddha, so that we will benefit from what they're teaching us. Okay? So you got the gold, you got a stinky pouch. Pay more attention to the gold. Yeah, if you dwell on the stinky pouch, you're just going to dream about it at night. Okay, third is the doubt in the Dharma. So first was doubt in ourselves, then doubt in our spiritual mentor, now doubt in the Dharma. So this makes us think, does Buddhahood exist? Is there a path to attain Buddhahood? Yeah. What is true cessation? What is, are these things really possible? Maybe human beings are inherently selfish. I mean, the scientists tell us that we're hardwired, to have fear in certain situations, that we can't help ourselves because our brain is hardwired to act in a certain way. Maybe they're right. So all this Dharma practice stuff is really impossible because we can't overcome our biological hardwiring. Okay? So we start to doubt the Dharma. Okay? So in this kind of case, it's very helpful. Put the doubt on the back burner, continue to learn, continue to study, continue to think about these things, and continue to practice. Because if you practice, then often through your own experience, you'll know if things are accurate or not. If you don't practice and you just get wrapped up in all sorts of intellectual machinations, then you'll never know. Okay? So, just if you receive some instructions, just, they seem reasonable, even though you can't verify them 100%, practice what appears most beneficial in the long term, and then, keep checking up rather than just throwing everything out. So Nagarjuna advises, it's just as when a person stands at a fork in the road and is so confused by doubt that he goes nowhere at all. Ever been in that situation? In seeking realization of the true character of phenomena, doubt acts in just the same way. Is it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? We're the turkey standing on the fence when Thanksgiving is approaching. Yeah, we better figure it out. Okay. Because you remain doubtful, you don't diligently seek to realize the true character of phenomena. So you're so involved in, is this true, is that true, that you're not really able to do the analysis and investigation that is necessary to see the true character of phenomena, because you're so busy with the spinning mind like that. This doubt comes forth from confusion. Among all the detrimental mental factors, it is the worst. Although you may possess doubts while abiding in the world, you should still accord with the sublime and virtuous Dharma. Just as when you contemplate a fork in the road, you should follow the path which is most beneficial. So even though everything in the Dharma may not be perfectly clear to you, you have some awareness of what's virtuous and not virtuous. Follow what's virtuous. Follow what's beneficial. Trust your experience with that. So here's another thing. The Buddha speaks of 84,000 afflictions, Why are there only 5 that need to be suppressed to attain serenity? Oh, this is a good one. Let's worry about this one. Okay. So the 5 hindrances encompass the 3 poisons of ignorance, animosity, and attachment. Okay. And the 3 poisons actually include all 84,000 afflictions. Why are there 84,000? Yeah. Well, as His Holiness would say, because 83,999 are too few and 84,001 are too many. That's why there's 84,000. Okay? Good reason, isn't it? Okay. So, so the hindrance of sensual desire, that goes along with of the 3 poisons. Which one? Attachment. Okay. The hindrance of malice goes which of the 3 poisons? Anger or animosity. The hindrances of lethargy and drowsiness and doubt? Ignorance. Okay. The hindrance of restlessness and remorse? Says all 3 poisons. All 3 of them. Okay. Yeah. So, that's why they say the 4 categories: attachment, animosity, confusion, and all 3, make 4 categories. And they each have 21,000 afflictions. That's very convenient, easy, isn't it? For a total of 84,000. So you can do your math on the number of afflictions you have. Okay. So Ji says that the practitioner who has suppressed these 3, even though it's a temporary elimination by doing the serenity meditation and not the full eradication of these hindrances from the root, like you get when you combine serenity and insight, still it's very, very good and very healthy and soothing for your mind. He said it's like a person who has recovered from a threatening disease, a famished person arriving in a land of plenty, and a hostage being released from terrorists. His or her mind is peaceful, responsive, clear, and blissful. And then with that mind of serenity, you then turn it to develop insight and investigate the nature of reality. Okay, so some time for questions.
So how are these 5 hindrances different from the 5 faults that you talk about in guided meditations?
Okay, so the 5 faults and the 5 hindrances, you can see that there's some relationship between the 2. They were espoused. The 5 hindrances come from the sutras. The 5 faults come from Maitreya's and Asanga's work. Okay? But they kind of come to the same point, don't they? Yeah? Laziness. Yeah? Forgetting the object of meditation. Yeah? Laxity and agitation. Not applying the antidote, over applying the antidote. Yeah. So you can see there's some relation. So it isn't really that there's just the 5 hindrances and not the 5 faults. There's also the 5 faults and also the 5 hindrances. Remember, there's 84,000. Okay. But you can see that there's, relationship between them.
I find myself sometimes when I'm meditating that I'm aware that I want to daydream instead of meditate. Is that laziness or is a mind that is restless?
Well, it's the mind that's restless and agitated that starts the daydream. It's the mind of laziness that doesn't want to stop it.
I have difficulty when I meditate in creating a a visualization that appears to be solid and real that I can see.
Mhm.
Do you have any advice on how to
Like,
create?
like I said, it's not supposed to be solid and fixed that you can see. It's just a mental image appearing to your mind.
So in other words, you're just thinking that it's there and you see
Yeah,
it, but it doesn't
you're
have to be
thinking
there.
it, you're imagining it, you're visualizing it. You're not sitting there trying to see it with your eyes. Not like that. It's an image that appears to the mind. It's not an image that appears to your eyes.
But half of your vision is your visual cortex, which is inside your brain. You can't tweak your cortex to interpret it as being real.
Okay, but like I said yesterday, if I say pizza, you have a visualization of pizza.
That appears real.
Yeah. You have right, it's there. Your eyes are open. You're even having sense data. You know exactly what kind of pizza it is.
Oh,
So once you have familiarity, if I say Buddha, an image appears to your mind. Even your eyes are open. It's just a mental image. It's not seeing it with your eyes. Okay? Because you're going to get a headache if you're like this.
am I?
Yeah? Because you're pushing. You're making the mind too tense.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah?
I really liked what you were saying about the difference between love and worry. I'd like to explain that to a loved one, but she's someone who doesn't want to be explained anything to. Do you have like a really simple, quick, quip kind of summary way I
A
can
summary.
help
Is it your
get that to
mother?
her? Yeah.
Yeah. How did I guess? Take her the tape. Take the tape.
Oh, she won't. She can't sit there for 45 minutes. She doesn't want to learn that much.
No, you just pick out this one part and said, Mom, I was thinking about how much I worry, and I heard this really cool thing that made me reflect on it. You want to listen to it?
No.
Okay, then your only other choice is just endure it, ignore it.
Okay.
It's like, because she feels that that's her duty as a mother, is to worry. And that if she wasn't beside herself with worry about her adorable son, then she would not be a good mother. That's the way she's thinking. Difficult to change that. Yeah, any parents here worry? Oh my goodness. Any of you worrying parents have advice for him? Okay. Yeah, she has a son, so.
I have an only son, so I've worried a lot. And I don't worry so much now, thanks to the Dharma. But I'll say what I would like my son to do. I work on my end. Love her and have some compassion towards the way she got brought up, the patterns. More than, just like you don't want her to try and change you all the time, maybe not trying to change her so much. Yeah. And then, you don't have to pay attention to it. Just focus on something else and let her just say all those things and say, yeah, Mom, I love you, Mom.
Yeah.
One in Willits. I would also maybe think about the intent. She thinks that that's how, as you were saying, your mother as well, thought that was the way to show that she loved her. Contemplate that.
Yeah. They're trying to say, I want you to be safe. I care about you and I want you to be safe. That's what they're trying to say. They say it in all sorts of other language, like, why weren't you home on time? Okay. But that's what they're really trying to say. Yeah. And, my grandma I remember this so clearly, my father was 65 and his mother, my grandma, told him to put on a sweater so he didn't catch cold. You know, you just get used to it, ignore it. You know, put the sweater on, make them happy. There's a father behind that's nodding. What do you say?
It's like if somebody's going to give you a present, you accept it and you say thank you, because in their mind they're giving you something, so you don't resist it. You do that. What Venerable did. Yes, thank you. You're right. Acknowledge it, and then it's all fine.
But I'm trying to be an independent adult, and they're not respecting me as an independent adult, right?
I see that it's done from like a place of love, but it bugs me that it's causing her some sort of mental disturbance having to undergo this constantly, because I don't want to have to check in with her like every week.
Mm-hmm.
Like how I want her to be free from that affliction just the same that I want to be free from it.
Yeah. And there's nothing much you can do sometimes, you know? So, you call once a week. It makes them happy, you know? It just, love them, make them happy, and realize it's not, it took me a long time to understand it. It's not that they don't respect us as independent adults. Yeah. That's not it. They're not, it comes across as if they're trying to control you, and we fight against it. But if you can just acknowledge, I know you care about me, and I will do my best to be safe. It sounds like, a 6-year-old thing to say, but it comforts them. Yeah. And then, and you call once a week. Hi, Mom. No news. How are you doing? Oh, the washing machine broke. Oh, too bad. Did you get it fixed? Makes them happy. And when you think that, what they did for us when we were growing up, I mean, we peed and pooed and had all over the place, and we had temper tantrums, and we cried, and we woke them up in the middle of the night, and we threw things across the room, and we vomited all over them. Didn't we? And then we were rebellious, and we, doing all sorts of things. So, we can do something to make them happy now. It's no sweat off of our back. It doesn't mean that we're still children and infants. I'll tell you a story about that. When my brother was getting married, okay, so there was going to be a big party with the relatives and friends and everything for my brother's, for him and his fiancée at the family house. So that morning, sitting having breakfast with my mom, my future sister-in-law, and my sister. And my mom starts saying, how about if you wear this dress? It would be really nice if you wore this dress tonight at the party. And I said, okay. And that was the end of the discussion. Then afterwards, my future sister-in-law and my sister said, we can't believe that she asked you, I was an adult, I don't know how old at that time, we can't believe that she told you what to wear like you're a child. And we can't believe that you just said yes. And I thought about it, why did I just say yes? Because it's no sweat off my back. I know I'm an independent adult. What she's doing is not threatening my integrity or my autonomy. I just, it's easier that way. Rather than, why are you telling me what to wear? I'm an adult, get off my back. I don't want to get into that. Okay? Yeah. Then my mother always used to say to me, wait until you have kids, then you'll understand. So I didn't have any.
I think I'm pretty clear on understanding the difference between guilt and regret. I understand. But I somehow feel like remorse is part of that too, in terms of like, can you have remorse without guilt? Can you have remorse with regret? How does remorse tie into all that?
I think
I'm a little confused by that.
I'm using remorse. It kind of means the same as regret, but although maybe not. Yeah. No, I'm using remorse. It means more like the kind of beat yourself up type of thing. Yeah. But it could actually mean regret
Sounds like guilt,
too.
though, what you
Huh?
just said. That sounds like guilt, though.
Yeah, that's more leaning towards guilt. But I think it also could be the virtuous kind of regret, because even if you have the virtuous kind of regret, when you're trying to develop serenity, that even becomes a hindrance at that time. Whereas if you can practice and purify that action and put down the regret, then even the virtuous regret doesn't come and disturb your meditation. Yeah, so I think remorse could apply either way.